The summer in suburban Chicago was sweltering, but inside Westfield Mall, the air was cool and carried a faint cinnamon scent from the buns at the food court. Sarah Wilson, a 32-year-old mother of 2-year-old Ethan, pushed the stroller through the bustling corridors, trying to ignore how her sneakers stuck to the tacky floor. Ethan, with his curly blonde hair and big blue eyes, kicked his legs happily, clutching a toy dinosaur Sarah had bought him at the toy store 5 minutes earlier. It was their little ritual. Every Saturday, they'd head to the mall to escape the week's grind. Laundry, cleaning, toddler tantrums, and the endless work calls of her husband, Nathan. Nathan Wilson, 35, a tall man with dark hair and piercing green eyes, had told Sarah that morning he was heading to his mom Ellen's place in Evanston to help with some repairs. "The roof's leaking, Sarah, and she can't handle those contractors alone. I'll be back by tonight, okay?" he'd said, grabbing his Toyota keys and kissing her cheek. Sarah had nodded, though a faint prick of irritation stung her. Lately, Nathan had been helping his mom a lot, and while Sarah adored her mother-in-law, something about his excuse felt off. But she brushed it aside. She had enough on her plate with Ethan and her part-time accounting job. That day, Sarah decided to treat herself and her son. She paused by the Starbucks window, debating a latte, when Ethan suddenly shouted, "Mommy, look, fountain." He pointed at a small decorative fountain in the center of the mall, water cascading over artificial stones. Sarah smiled, adjusted his cap, and said, "Let's go see it up close." They headed toward it, weaving through shoppers with Zara and H&M bags. Ethan clapped his hands, and for a moment, Sarah felt almost happy, just a mom and her boy. No worries, no rush. But that feeling didn't last. As they neared the fountain, Sarah's gaze drifted to the escalator leading to the second floor. Her heart stopped. There, holding hands with a slim blonde in a short red dress, was Nathan. Her Nathan. The same Nathan who was supposed to be knee-deep in dust fixing his mom's roof. He was laughing, leaning toward the blonde, who playfully nudged his shoulder. They looked like a couple from a commercial, carefree, in love, strangers. Sarah froze, her fingers gripping the stroller handle so tightly her knuckles whitened. Ethan, oblivious, babbled about dinosaurs, but his voice sounded distant, like it was underwater. She blinked, hoping it was a mistake, a look-alike. But no, it was Nathan, in his favorite gray t-shirt and jeans, wearing the watch she'd given him for their 5th anniversary. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Ethan turned his head, noticing her stillness. Sarah forced a breath and muttered, "Nothing, sweetie, just." "Mommy's thinking." Her voice quivered, but she held it together for her son. She looked away from the escalator, only to glance back a second later. Nathan and the blonde had stepped off and were heading toward Victoria's Secret, still hand in hand. The blonde said something, and Nathan laughed, the same laugh Sarah once thought belonged to her alone. Her mind spun. What was happening? Who was this woman? Why did he lie? How long had this been going on? Questions buzzed like a swarm of bees, but there were no answers. Her cheeks burned with shame and anger. She stood in the middle of the mall, surrounded by people, yet she'd never felt so alone. Sarah sat at a food court table, holding a plastic cup of apple juice for Ethan. Her fingers trembled as she handed it to him, and he grabbed it eagerly, sipping while swinging his legs. Around them, the crowd hummed, kids screaming, teens laughing, cashiers calling out orders. But to Sarah, it all blurred into a dull roar. Her thoughts fixated on one thing: Nathan had betrayed her. And not just betrayed her, he'd done it with such ease, as if lying was second nature. She glanced toward Victoria's Secret, where Nathan and the blonde had disappeared minutes ago. Her first impulse was to storm in there, make a scene, scream, demand answers, maybe even yank a handful of that perfectly styled blonde hair. But Ethan was beside her, his innocent eyes holding her back. She couldn't let him see their world crumble. "Not yet. Mommy, where's Daddy?" Ethan's voice piped up, pulling her from her thoughts. It was high and clear, as it always was when he asked his endless, "Why?" S and where? S. Sarah froze, unsure what to say. Daddy's, at Grandma's, helping her, she managed, the words scorching her throat. It was a lie, and she hated herself for repeating it. But what could she say? Daddy's with another lady while we eat cookies? Sarah pressed her lips together and looked away, pretending to rummage in her bag. She pulled out her phone and checked the screen. No messages from Nathan. Usually, he'd text her at least once during the day, a quick, "How's it going?" or a photo of Ellen's old couch captioned, "Helping Mom get rid of this junk." But today, silence. And that silence spoke louder than words. Sarah knew she couldn't just sit there. She needed a plan. She opened the location tracking app they'd installed years ago when Ethan was a baby to stay connected in case of emergencies. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Should she? It felt like an invasion, a step toward admitting their marriage wasn't what she thought. But then she remembered Nathan's laugh on the escalator, his hand in the blonde's, and she tapped find. Nathan's phone pinged at Westfield Mall. No surprise there. But now she had proof. He wasn't in Evanston, not at Ellen's, but here, yards away from her. Her heart pounded, anger mixing with a strange relief. At least she wasn't losing her mind. This wasn't her imagination. "Ethan, sweetie, let's play a game," Sarah said, forcing her voice to sound cheerful. Ethan looked up from his juice and nodded. "We're going to hunt for treasure. But we have to be super quiet, like mice, okay?" "Like mice?" Ethan echoed gleefully, clutching his dinosaur. Sarah managed to smile, though inside she was boiling. She stood, grabbed the stroller, and headed toward Victoria's Secret. Her treasure wasn't a golden chest, it was the truth, and she intended to find it. When she reached the store's entrance, her heart thudded so loudly she feared other shoppers might hear. She peeked inside, keeping the stroller behind her. Pink walls, lacy lingerie on racks, the scent of perfume in the air, it all felt absurdly normal compared to the chaos in her head. And then she saw them. Nathan stood by a rack of bras, holding something black and lacy, while the blonde laughed, pointing at another set. They looked so comfortable together. Like this was their millionth shopping trip. Sarah's stomach twisted. She stepped back, hiding behind the storefront, and pressed a hand to her mouth to stifle a sob. Ethan, noticing her movement, asked, "Mommy, did we find the treasure?" "Not yet, little one," she whispered, barely holding herself together. She wanted to scream, to charge at Nathan, but she knew that wouldn't work. She needed proof, something more than her word against his. Then she remembered her phone's camera. With shaking hands, Sarah switched it on and started snapping pictures, Nathan with the blonde by the rack, Nathan whispering in her ear, the blonde playfully touching his cheek. Each shot stabbed her, but she didn't stop. These were her evidence, her weapons. She didn't know what she'd do with them yet, but at least she had something solid. As Nathan and the blonde moved toward the checkout, Sarah retreated quickly, pushing the stroller away from the store. Her mind raced. What now? Go home and wait? Call him and start a fight? Or follow them and dig deeper? She paused by the fountain where it all began and looked at Ethan. He was dozing off, clutching his dinosaur to his chest. Guilt pricked her. Her little boy didn't deserve this mess. But there was no turning back. She decided to follow Nathan. If he was going to lie to her face, let him try when she knew the full truth. Sarah adjusted her bag, gripped the stroller, and headed for the mall's exit, where she guessed Nathan and his companion would soon appear. Her heart raced, but her eyes burned with determination. Whatever happened next, Sarah Wilson wouldn't be a victim anymore. Sarah stood by the glass doors of the mall's main entrance, hidden behind a large potted palm. She kept Ethan's stroller behind her, trying to look like just another mom waiting for someone. The sun was dipping low, casting golden glints across the parked cars outside. Ethan snored softly in the stroller, and Sarah was grateful he gave her the focus she needed. Minutes later, the doors slid open, and out came Nathan with the blonde. They walked side by side, carrying shopping bags. The blonde was talking animatedly, waving her hands, while Nathan nodded, smiling that smile Sarah once thought was hers alone. Her throat tightened, but she forced herself to breathe evenly. She couldn't let emotions take over, not yet. They headed to the parking lot, and Sarah followed, staying back and blending into the exiting crowd. Her pulse hammered, but adrenaline fueled her. Nathan and the blonde stopped by a silver BMW, a car Sarah had never seen. It wasn't Ellen's, and it wasn't their family Toyota. Whose was it? The blonde's? Or had Nathan bought a new car and kept it from her? Nathan opened the passenger door and helped the blonde in with a gallant flourish, then circled to the driver's side. Sarah whipped out her phone and snapped a photo of the license plate, another piece of evidence. The BMW pulled out, and Sarah knew she had to act fast. Her own car, an old Honda Civic, was parked nearby. She hurried to it, gently buckled Ethan into his car seat, and fastened the straps. He stirred and whimpered. "Mommy, where are we going?" "Home, little one, but first a quick stop," Sarah said, trying to sound calm. She slid behind the wheel, started the engine, and followed the BMW. Her hands shook on the steering wheel, but she gripped it like an anchor in a storm. She kept a few cars between them, hoping Nathan wouldn't spot her in his rearview mirror. The BMW wound through familiar suburban streets, then turned into a wealthier neighborhood Sarah rarely visited, big houses, manicured lawns. It stopped at a two-story home with white columns and huge windows. Nathan and the blonde got out, grabbed their bags, and headed inside. Sarah parked around the corner where she could see the house but stay out of sight. She watched as Nathan pulled out keys and unlocked the door. Keys. He had keys to this place. That meant he'd been here before often. The blonde went in, and Nathan lingered on the doorstep, glancing around. Sarah ducked instinctively, though she doubted he'd see her. Then he stepped inside, and the door closed. Sarah sat in her car, staring at the house. Her mind buzzed. Was this the blonde's place? Or was Nathan renting it? How long had this been going on? She pulled out her phone and called Ellen again. "Sarah, honey, you again? Is something wrong?" Ellen's voice was warm but concerned. "Ellen, tell me the truth. Was Nathan with you today?" Sarah didn't beat around the bush. Ellen sighed. "No, dear. I told you I haven't seen him. What's going on?" Sarah gripped the phone so hard it nearly cracked. "Nothing, Ellen. Just checking. Thanks." She hung up before Ellen could reply. Her suspicions were confirmed. Nathan was lying to everyone. She glanced at Ethan in the rearview mirror. He'd fallen back asleep, hugging his dinosaur. Tears stung her eyes, but she held them back. She wouldn't cry. Not yet. She needed a plan. And she knew where to start. Sarah stared at the white-columned house where Nathan and the blonde had vanished. The street was quiet, only the rustle of leaves in the breeze breaking the silence. Her Honda Civic sat around the corner, tucked in the shadow of an old oak, but Sarah still felt exposed, as if every passerby could guess why she was there. Ethan slept in his car seat, his breathing steady and calm, the dinosaur still in his hands. Sarah envied him. He didn't yet know how fast a solid world could shatter. Her phone lay on the passenger seat, the screen still glowing from her call with Ellen. The words echoed in her head. I haven't seen him. Nathan had lied not just to her, but to his mother too. That made his deception darker. He wasn't just covering his tracks, he'd woven a web of lies. But why? And who was this blonde who held his hand so casually? Sarah looked at the house again. A light flicked on in a second-floor window, and she saw shadows moving behind the curtains. Her imagination painted sickening scenes, Nathan and the blonde laughing, sipping wine, maybe even. She shook her head, banishing the thoughts. She needed facts, not guesses. She grabbed her phone and opened the photo of the BMW's license plate. Her friend Kate, who worked at an insurance company, could check who it was registered to. Sarah hesitated only a moment before dialing. "Sarah? Where are you? It's late." Kate's voice was sleepy but worried. "Kate, I need your help." "It's urgent." Sarah kept her voice low, not wanting to wake Ethan. "Can you run a license plate?" "I'll explain later." Kate sighed but didn't argue. Give me the number, I'll check the database. But you're telling me everything, got it? Sarah recited the digits and letters, waiting as Kate typed. Each second stretched like an hour. Finally, Kate came back. It's registered to Laura Green. 29 years old, address 1420 Maple Lane. That's where you are now, isn't it? Sarah glanced at the street sign, Maple Lane. Her heart skipped. Yeah. Thanks, Kate. I'll call you tomorrow. Sarah, what's going on? Are you okay? Kate pressed, but Sarah couldn't explain now. I'm fine. Just family stuff. Talk later. She hung up before Kate could push further. Laura Green. The name spun in her mind, but it meant nothing to her. Who was she? A coworker? An old friend? Something more? Sarah opened her browser and typed Laura Green Chicago. The results were a mess. LinkedIn profiles, social media pages, nothing specific. Then she added 1420 Maple Lane. One hit led to a real estate listing from 2 years ago. She clicked it, same house, white columns and all. But it wasn't owned by Nathan or Laura. A Richard Thompson, some businessman who'd moved to California, had sold it. So it was a rental? Or had Nathan and Laura bought it together? Her thoughts were cut off by the sound of an engine. Sarah ducked as the BMW pulled out and drove down the street. Nathan was driving, Laura beside him, typing on her phone. Where were they going? Sarah started her car and followed, keeping her distance. Ethan stirred but didn't wake, and she sighed in relief. The BMW crossed town, passing familiar areas, then stopped at La Bella Vita, a fancy Italian restaurant with crisp tablecloths and pricey wine. Sarah had been there with Nathan for their 3rd anniversary. The memory, Nathan in a suit, her in a blue dress, their laughter and promises, cut her like a blade. Now he was bringing someone else here. She parked across the street and watched them go inside. The host greeted them like regulars, leading them to a window table. Sarah saw Nathan order wine, Laura laughing and touching his hand. It was too much. Her anger flared anew, but she held it in. She needed the full picture. Sarah called Nathan. Her fingers shook as the phone rang. He finally picked up. Sarah? What's up? His voice was calm, even a little annoyed, and it infuriated her more. Just checking in. You still at Mom's? She tried to sound casual, but her voice wavered. Yeah, all good. We're wrapping up the roof. Home soon, he said, and Sarah saw him smile at Laura across the table, phone to his ear. She clenched her jaw. Okay. Say hi to Ellen. She hung up before he could respond. He'd lied to her face without flinching. Her hands shook with rage, nearly crushing the phone. Sarah knew she couldn't just watch. She got out of the car, quietly shutting the door so Ethan wouldn't wake, and edged closer to the restaurant. Through the window, she saw Nathan and Laura clink glasses. Her heart tore, but she forced herself to think straight. She snapped another photo, then noticed something on the table, a small black box. Nathan opened it, and Laura squealed, holding out her hand. Inside was a ring. Sarah felt the ground slip away. A ring. He was buying a ring for another woman. Her marriage, her family, everything she believed in crumbled before her eyes. But instead of tears, a cold, determined fire ignited in her chest. She returned to the car, slid behind the wheel, and exhaled. Nathan thought he could live a double life? She'd show him he was wrong. Sarah sat in the car, staring into the darkness beyond the restaurant window. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel so hard her nails dug into her palms, leaving crescent marks. One image looped in her mind, Nathan opening the ring box, Laura beaming as she extended her hand. This wasn't just betrayal. It was a dagger to the heart of their marriage, their family, everything Sarah held dear. Anger and pain battled inside her, but a cold resolve slowly rose above them. Ethan stirred in the back, mumbling in his sleep. Sarah glanced at him in the rearview mirror, his little face peaceful, dinosaur still in his arms. Her throat tightened with love and guilt. He didn't deserve this. Her son shouldn't grow up in the shadow of his father's lies. But what could she do? Go home, Pretend nothing happened and wait for Nathan to confess? Or storm the restaurant and make a scene now? She dismissed the latter. A public blowout wouldn't solve anything. It'd just draw eyes and leave her humiliated. No, she needed a plan, something smarter, something to make Nathan feel the pain she did. Sarah pulled out her phone and scrolled through the photos. Nathan and Laura at Victoria's Secret, at the restaurant, the ring on the table. Each image was a nail in their marriage's coffin, but together, they gave her power. She opened a text to Kate. I need your help. Meet me tomorrow at 10 at the River Street Cafe. It's about Nathan. Kate had been her best friend since college, and if anyone could help navigate this mess, it was her. Sarah hit send and exhaled. She needed an ally, someone who wouldn't judge what she was about to do. The BMW still sat in the restaurant lot, and Sarah knew she couldn't wait there forever. Ethan would wake soon, and she needed to get home, gather her thoughts, rest, prepare for the next step. She started the engine and drove back to their suburban house, eyes on the road but mind elsewhere. She stopped at a 24-hour convenience store for a bottle of water and napkins. Her hands still shook, and she didn't want Ethan to notice if he woke. When she pulled into their modest two-story home, it was nearly 9. She carefully carried Ethan to his crib, tucked him in, and lingered, watching him. I'll fix this, little one, she whispered, unsure if she believed it herself. Downstairs, she poured a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table. The house's silence pressed on her. Normally, Nathan would be home by now, joking about Ellen or Ethan's toy messes. Tonight, the quiet was heavy, like the calm before a storm. Sarah opened her laptop and typed, Laura Green, again, this time digging into social media. She got lucky. Laura's Instagram was public. Laura Green, 29, interior designer, lover of travel and luxury bags. Photos showed her in Paris, New York, Miami beaches, always smiling, always flawless. Then Sarah saw a familiar face. In a post from 3 months ago, Laura stood by the Eiffel Tower, Nathan's arm around her waist, both grinning at the camera. Caption: best trip with the best person. Sarah remembered that week. Nathan said he was at a marketing conference in Detroit. He'd even sent her hotel room pics and boring presentation slides. All lies. She scrolled on. Another photo, Nathan and Laura at a restaurant like La Bella Vita, wine glasses raised. Another, they were on a yacht, somewhere on Lake Michigan. Each image ripped her heart, but fueled her anger. How long had this been going on? A year? 2? How had she been so blind? Sarah slammed the laptop shut and downed her wine. The sound of keys in the lock broke her thoughts. Nathan walked in, dropping his bag by the door. Sarah? You're still up. His tone was light, as if nothing was wrong. She turned to him, fighting to steady her hands. Yeah, I'm up. How's Mom? Her voice was even, but inside, she burned. Oh, fine. Roof's fixed, but I'm beat, he said with a smile, grabbing a beer from the fridge. Ethan asleep? Yeah, Sarah replied curtly, staring at his back. She could spill it all now, throw the photos in his face, scream about Laura, the ring. But something stopped her. She wanted more. She wanted him to trap himself in his lies. You're quiet tonight, Nathan said, turning with his beer. Something up? Sarah forced a smile. No, just tired. Long day with Ethan. She stood, put her glass in the sink, and added, I'm going to bed. Keep it down. He nodded, and Sarah went upstairs, feeling his eyes on her. In bed, sleep wouldn't come. Her mind buzzed with plans. Tomorrow, she'd meet Kate, and they'd figure this out together. But one thing she knew, Nathan would pay. Not just for the betrayal, but for making her doubt herself, her worth, her family. Sarah woke early the next morning. Nathan still sprawled across the bed, breathing evenly, carefree. She slipped out quietly, dressed, and went downstairs to make Ethan's breakfast. Her movements were mechanical: toast, peanut butter, a glass of milk. Inside, she was a volcano ready to erupt. When Ethan woke, she set him at the table with cartoons on the tablet to keep him occupied. Nathan came down an hour later, still in pajamas, hair mussed. "Morning," he mumbled, kissing her cheek. Sarah gritted her teeth but said, "Morning. I'm at work late today. Might stop by Mom's after," he said, pouring coffee. "Sure," Sarah replied, eyes on Ethan's plate. She knew it was another lie but stayed silent. Let him think he was in control. By 10, Sarah sat at the River Street Cafe, clutching an espresso. Kate walked in minutes later, her red hair in a messy bun. "Sarah, you look like a ghost." "What happened?" She sat across, green eyes sharp with curiosity. Sarah exhaled and spilled it all: the mall, Laura, the Maple Lane house, the ring at the restaurant. She showed the photos and Kate listened, brows rising higher with each word. When Sarah finished, Kate leaned back and whistled softly. "So Nathan's a complete jerk. What's your next move?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted, twirling her cup. "Part of me wants to kick him out, but another part. I want him to see what he's lost. I want him to feel this." Kate grinned, a familiar spark in her eyes. "Then we break him. But first, we need more dirt." "Who's Laura? How long's this been going on? What else is he hiding? How do we find out?" Sarah felt a flicker of hope. "I know a guy, a PI. Jack Ryan. He can tell Nathan, dig up everything. It'll cost, though." Kate leaned in. "You in?" Sarah nodded without hesitation. "We have savings. I'll use them. He won't see it coming." Kate squeezed her hand. "Done. I'll call Jack today. Hang in there, Sarah. You're tougher than he thinks." They finished their coffee and parted, but Sarah felt different. She wasn't a victim anymore. She was a hunter. And Nathan would soon learn what it meant to play with fire. The next few days, Sarah lived in a strange duality, outwardly a calm wife and mom, making breakfast, smiling at Nathan, but inwardly a storm raged. Kate contacted Jack Ryan, the PI, and he took the case. Sarah gave him her photos, addresses, and details, plus $3,000 from their savings, stashed in an envelope. She didn't care about the money. She needed the truth. Jack was a quiet, middle-aged man with sharp eyes and a toothpick-chewing habit. 3 days later, he met Sarah at the River Street Cafe, sliding a folder across the table. "Your husband's a busy guy," he said, tapping the toothpick. Sarah's stomach nodded, but she opened the folder. First up, photos of Nathan and Laura at the Maple Lane house, kissing on the doorstep before going inside. Then worse, Nathan with Laura at an office, her design studio, where he helped with projects. The real blow was a bank report. Jack had accessed a hidden account Nathan had been funneling thousands into for 2 years, money siphoned from their joint savings, excused as mom's repairs or work expenses. "He's renting that house for her," Jack said, tapping the table. "Laura Green's been his girlfriend for at least 2 years. Met at work, she designed his company's office. There's more. She's got a daughter, 4 years old. Father unknown, but I'd bet it's him." Sarah's world swam. A daughter. Nathan might have another child. She remembered his weekend vanishings, helping a friend move, stuck at work. It all clicked. She clenched her fists to keep from screaming in the cafe. "Thanks, Jack," she said, voice hoarse. "This is enough. Need more, call me." He nodded and left, leaving her with the folder, heavy as stone. That night, Nathan came home late, reeking of unfamiliar cologne. Sarah sat on the couch, folder in hand, as he walked in. "Sarah? Why were you up?" He tossed his keys on the table, eyeing her with mild surprise. "Sit down, Nathan," she said, voice icy. He frowned but sat, sensing the tension. "What's that?" He nodded at the folder. Sarah opened it, laying out photos one by one, Nathan and Laura at the mall, the restaurant, the house. Then the bank report, and finally, a picture of Laura with a little girl Jack had included. Nathan paled, his eyes darting across the table. "Sarah, I can explain," he started, but she cut him off. "Don't. I know everything. 2 years, Nathan. 2 years of a double life. You stole our money, Lied to me, to Ethan, to your mom. And that girl, is she yours? Her voice shook, but she held firm. Nathan dropped his head, hands falling into fists. Yes, he said quietly. Her name's Amy. I didn't plan this, Sarah. Laura, it just happened. Just happened? Sarah shot up, her voice breaking into a shout. You bought her a ring. You were going to marry her, weren't you? What about me? Ethan? Were we just your backup plan? No, I love you, Sarah. I just got lost. He looked up, tears in his eyes. But Sarah didn't buy it. You didn't get lost. You chose. And now I'm choosing. She hurled the folder at his face, papers scattering. Get out. Get out of my house right now. Nathan tried to speak, but her glare silenced him. He stood slowly, grabbed his keys and left, slamming the door. Sarah collapsed on the couch, sobs shaking her, the ones she'd held back all this time. But with the pain came relief. She was free from his lies. The next weeks were brutal. Sarah filed for divorce, hiring a lawyer Kate recommended. Nathan didn't fight it. He knew he'd lost. The court gave Sarah custody of Ethan, half their assets, and child support. The Maple Lane house was a rental, and Laura moved out fast when Nathan stopped paying. Sarah didn't know what became of their relationship and didn't care. She sold their old house and bought a smaller, cozy cottage closer to downtown. Ethan adjusted better than she'd hoped. He loved his new room and often asked when Daddy would come back, but Sarah learned to answer gently. Daddy lives somewhere else, but he loves you. She wasn't sure that was true, but she wouldn't poison her son with hate. Kate was her rock, helping with the move, watching Ethan during lawyer visits, even throwing a girls' night to celebrate Sarah's new start. Jack Ryan sent a card with a simple, "Stay strong," and Sarah smiled reading it. She never thought she'd thank a PI, but he'd given her freedom. One Saturday morning, 3 months after that night, Sarah took Ethan to the park. The sun shone bright, and he ran around with his dinosaur, laughing as she chased him. She sat on a bench, watching, and felt peace for the first time in ages. Her life had shattered, but she'd rebuilt it, not perfect, but hers. Nathan called sometimes, begging forgiveness, but Sarah didn't answer. She didn't hate him. Hate had faded to indifference. He was her past, not her future. Her future was here, with Ethan, with herself, with new dreams she was just beginning to shape. When Ethan ran up and hugged her legs, shouting, "Mommy, you're the best," Sarah laughed. "You too, little one," she said, scooping him up. They walked home hand in hand, and for the first time in forever, Sarah felt everything would be okay. 6 months later, Sarah had a new job, bookkeeper at a small firm that valued her diligence and calm. Ethan thrived in preschool, drawing pictures of just him and Mommy now. Nathan faded from her life, leaving only memories and lessons she'd never forget. One evening, on her cottage porch with a mug of tea, Sarah opened an old memory box, wedding photos, letters, trinkets. She didn't cry looking at them. Instead, she packed it up and took it to the garage. Her story with Nathan was over, but hers was just beginning.